Today is indeed a very important day for the Brexit chaos. In a historic move, the British Parliament will be convening on a Saturday, which is today, and this as the lawmakers will be voting on Prime Minister Boris Johnson's Brexit deal with the European Union. Johnson faces an uphill task of convincing parliamentarians to back the divorce deal, a front on which his predecessor Theresa May failed thrice. The British Prime Minister struck a deal with Brussels on Friday after making several concessions on Northern Ireland. The last time that lawmakers met on a Saturday was way back in 1982 when the Falkland War broke out. Meanwhile, Johnson held a cabinet meeting at 10 Downing Street ahead of the crucial vote. Calling his deal the best outcome, the UK Prime Minister said that he was confident that his deal would be approved.
And let me say, we will leave the European Union on October the 31st. And I was very interested at the European Council last night and over the last few hours. The feeling of wanting to get Brexit done is strong, not just in this country, and not just in our parliament, but really across the world now, and particularly with our EU friends and partners. They see the wasted opportunities. These are years the locusts have stolen going by, 3.5 years already, that we need to get on and build a new partnership, build a fantastic new free trade agreement, which we can do, and I think they'd rather do that. And they look ahead at all the other, I mean, I'm talking about our friends and partners, they look ahead at all the other possibilities, and there's no better outcome than the one I'm advocating. Well, I very much hope so, and that's why I said what I said about what it could be like tomorrow evening. And I suppose what I would say to friends and colleagues in the House of Commons is, look, you know, this has been a long, exhausting and quite divisive business, Brexit. I think this will be the fourth time we've tried to get the House of Commons to approve something that was decided by the people in 2016. It is, you know, this would be the second agreement we've done with the EU. I think it's a great agreement. It takes us forward. It gets us out of the backstop. It gives us the freedoms that I have described. I hope that people will think, well, you know, what's the balance? What do our constituents really want? Do they want us to keep going with this argument? Do they want more division and delay? Or do they want us to focus on putting more money into the NHS, which is what we're doing, expanding provision for lifting up provision for education, and putting more police out on the streets, tackling knife crime? Those are the priorities of my constituents, and I think of everybody's constituents.
However, in a setback for the UK Prime Minister, several parties have already said that they will be opposing the deal. Now, on the forefront was Brexit Party leader Nigel Farage, who said that Johnson's deal is almost the same as the one proposed by Theresa May. Let's listen to what he had to say.
Stick on the pig, and I hope and believe that the House of Commons and the British public won't buy it at a fourth time of asking.
Scottish parties too have vowed to reject the agreement. Scotland said that it wants to remain in single EU market and not pay Eurozone tariffs.
For Scotland, it's worse even than Theresa May's deal, and it's actually hard to imagine a worse set of proposals. It takes Scotland out of the EU single market customs union, all against our will, places us at a competitive disadvantage with Northern Ireland, and opens up the prospect, I think, of a very hard Brexit.
If the deal is rejected, then Johnson will have to request the EU for a further Brexit extension. Remember, the UK is scheduled to leave the EU on October 31st. This will probably be Johnson's only opportunity to ensure an orderly Brexit. This, as several industries fear that a no deal would downgrade the British economy. However, apart from opposition MPs, Johnson also faces disapproval of his Northern Irish allies. As per the agreement, Northern Ireland will fall under the UK customs territory, meaning that the region will be subjected to EU tariffs and value-added tax. The decision has been condemned by the Northern Irish party, the DUP, which backs Johnson's Conservatives. Meanwhile, there have been several calls for the cancellation of Brexit altogether. An anti-Brexit campaign group released a video showing a message saying Britain now wants to remain ploughed into Wiltshire. And so if Prime Minister Johnson's deal is approved by the UK Parliament, then Brexit will happen as scheduled. But what if the deal is rejected yet again? If the deal is rejected, then Prime Minister Johnson will be required by law to request the European Union for another Brexit extension. The UK can then proceed to strike another divorce deal or head for a no-deal Brexit. Finally, the UK could hold another Brexit referendum altogether. This is where things get tricky. A second referendum is something that Prime Minister Johnson is unlikely to endorse. Remember, Johnson was the face of the Brexit movement when UK chose to leave the EU in 2016. However, some lawmakers, including those from Johnson's Conservative and opposition Labour Party, are ready to back a referendum to end 3 years of political stalemate. A referendum would require the approval of the government, which will have to set aside funds to organise a public vote. While calls for a Brexit cancellation have been on the rise, some are sceptical that funds will be wasted if the referendum gives the same result as the earlier one, which is leave the European Union.